Alrighty, everybody. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. At the beginning of this, I was telling Scotty that I just was not feeling great, but I'm feeling pretty good now, man. Just getting
I,
these thoughts out of my brain. So
I have that effect on people, Schmitty. It's not
yeah,
just you. It's
we'll give you all the credit on that one.
that Scottish charm.
Something like that. So unfortunately for my personal well-being, this is the last episode this week, episode number 144. Taking a bit of a U-turn here compared to what we've been talking about the rest of this week. But I really wanted to talk about this because one, I think that there could be some pretty massive effects on e-commerce as a whole from this. And also because the way that the Ecom Dispensary is structured, where we put out new episodes every week, we have the ability to talk about current events as they happen, which I think is pretty cool. And I wanted to talk about this because I have been seeing some stuff about this. I haven't really seen too many people talk about it in context of ecom. And I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm an expert on what we're about to talk about. But I have done a little bit of research. And I just wanted to, give you guys some of the info that I've heard, because this could be bad. This could be bad. Who knows? It might be nothing. You never know. I mean, it's always that seems to be always the case. Like, when COVID started happening, I feel like we were like some of the first people to really find out about it, because our factories were telling us that they're shutting down because of this virus, and we're like, what the fuck? No one's ever even heard of this before, and we're like, oh, it's probably nothing. It'll pass over, whatever. And then here we are, however many months later. It's pretty wild. So hopefully this isn't as impactful as COVID has been, but essentially what's been happening, we got word from our sourcing guy that parts of China are experiencing rolling blackouts for their energy, the good old electricity that we all rely on to do so many things. I think this is mainly in northeast regions of China. That's I guess where it tends to be a little bit colder, where they need to use a little bit more energy. But basically, China seems to be in some sort of an energy crisis. They are, they just don't have enough energy to run the entire freaking country, all those, however many billions of people they got over there. From my understanding, this is in part, I think, the whole COVID situation and all the second, third, fourth tier effects of that, I think definitely play a role. One of those is, from what I've seen, due to deteriorating relations with Australia. I think Australia used to export a lot of coal to China. I think coal is the main source of energy in China these days. I think they're trying to switch over to some cleaner forms of energy, but at the time right now, coal is like their number one source of energy. And Australia used to export a lot of coal to China, but after COVID, the Australians were not too happy with the Chinese. And I'm not going to, again, go into super in depth on that, because I don't know the entire story. But from my understanding, they've completely stopped exporting coal to China, which has, put a strain on the whole Chinese energy system. And I think there's also some stuff with natural gas. I think natural gas is a lot more expensive than it used to be. And essentially there's, they just don't have enough power to power the entire country. And they're starting to ration out power. And obviously the one thing in China that we all rely on as e-commerce sellers is the factories in China. And unfortunately, the factories seem to be kind of the first place where, the first hit places with these energy rations, because they use the most electricity, the most energy. So right now, Scotty, do you remember what our boy said? He said that they're only able to produce every other day or something.
I mean, someone said that in the Telegram. What the factories told us is just they're at 50% capacity. We don't know if that's half their machines or half they're only allowed to produce every other day. I don't know, but 50% capacity. So,
got you. So apparently this isn't even just a problem in China either. I think the rolling blackouts, as of the time that we're recording this, we're recording this on September 30th. This is coming out October 2nd, I believe. Apparently there's stuff going on in Europe as well. There's a big, as they call it over there, petrol shortage, gasoline. I guess a lot of people are like panic buying petrol. It's so funny to call it that, petrol. That just sounds so British.
Dude, I used to think Americans put something different in their cars than we do. I thought they used to put like an actual gas in there, but turns out they just put petrol in there and they just call it gas because they're retarded. I don't know.
Gasolina. Sí. So that's kind of like the general state of things. Again, I'm probably not doing the absolute best possible job of summarizing all of the complexities that have caused this to happen and everything that's going on. But I'm not a news reporter, so that's essentially the gist. Is that there's something going on in China. From what I've seen, I don't expect this to get better in the short term because we're going into winter, and as it gets colder, you need more energy for people to live. Heat is something that's pretty heavy in terms of energy usage. So it seems like right now this is limited to just a few regions of China in the Northeast, but I don't know, man. I wouldn't be surprised to see this extend to more areas. And I think that actually we should probably know this. Do you even know, Scotty, where our factory is in terms of like geography of China?
I am not up to date with up to date doesn't change. I don't know the geography of China at all.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that our factory is in this Northeast region that's being affected most heavily by this.
Gotcha.
I think
I mean, our factory is definitely being affected. So
yeah, I think that's where more of the factories are as opposed to down south. But I could be completely wrong about that. I'm not entirely sure. But regardless, it's starting to affect us.
Super random speculation here. I wonder if this energy crisis is the reason why China came out with all the Bitcoin stuff and banned Bitcoin mining.
Because they saw this coming.
Yeah, well, I mean, if the mining's in China, they're using a bunch of electricity over there. They banned mining because they saw the crisis coming, and they just like blamed it on their anti-Bitcoin stance, but really they realized we're about to have a shortage.
Oh, that's an interesting thought. I feel like China like bans Bitcoin and mining and stuff, but like the government still does it. I could be wrong there, but I feel like that's kind of how that goes. They're just like, no, you guys can't do it, but we're the government, so we can kind of do whatever we want.
Yeah.
I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. Like this is the tough thing. Like I said at the beginning of this episode, it's really tough to know when at the beginning of any sort of event like this, it's really tough to know whether or not this is going to be a long-term thing or if this is just something that is in the headlines this week and then by next week everyone will have forgotten about it and it'll go away.
Yeah. I mean, I thought it was going to be something like that when our boy Shin comes out and says the government promises it'll be fixed by next March. That makes me that worries me. Because, for one thing, promises by the Chinese government are far from reassuring, but also the fact that what they're promising is we're going to solve it over the span of the next, 5 months, 6 months?
Yeah.
Again, not reassuring at all. So could be something that takes a while. I think there's a few things to talk about here in terms of planning, how it affects you, what you can do about him.
Let's hear it.
For us, it doesn't affect us right now. 50% capacity is still enough. That's all we need for now. Number one. Number two, I think there is a potential risk that it does end up affecting us, not because our factory can't produce enough, but because one of the factories our factory sources components from can't produce enough to sell all the components that we need. I think that could affect us. And I also think, it's 50% now. There's no saying it isn't going to be. We're at 20% capacity in a month. We don't know. Entirely possible. So it could get worse. It could get better. And I think the components are perhaps a part that it's easy to overlook, where you think, oh, my factory's at 50% capacity. That's fine. That's still more than enough. But the factories that your factory sourced from, they might be selling, like they might already be producing at near capacity. And if you cut that by 50%, there's just no way that we're going to get enough components. That's possible. I saw someone, I want to say it was Econ Cowboy, mention about, oh, we should probably source from multiple places going forward. Maybe a factory outside of China, maybe another factory in China. We've thought about this a lot and we've done it in the past. And I would say if you can avoid it, do avoid it. Or source each product from one factory and one factory only. Reason being, once you start mixing inventory from two different factories, trying to make sure that those are identical in terms of size, weight, feel, material, design, just making sure those are exactly identical is going to be very fucking tough. And by tough, I mean next to impossible. And you're not going to know until a month or 6 weeks after you purchase whether they're identical or not. Then you're going to have to know on each bulk order, not just once, but is it consistently identical? I just think that's going to be a huge quality control consistency issue. And if customers are ordering two of the same product and they're coming out slightly different, it's not a good look at all. So if you can avoid it, avoid ordering from multiple factories. If you absolutely have to, I would try to order one SKU from one place and another SKU from a different place, so that each SKU that you have is always coming from the same factory. And then if there's an issue with a product, you also know which factory produced it. Because I can guarantee if you're working with two factories or more and there's an issue with products that customers report, each factory that you work with is going to blame it on the other factory. And yeah, you need to have some way of keeping track of where your product came from. So there's a lot of issues with multiple factories. We've tried to source stuff from outside of China. It hasn't made sense yet for us, just pricing wise, quality wise. People shit on Chinese quality, but you might find that the quality of manufacturing in China is actually higher than a lot of these other countries that you can source from. I mean, they're literally the leading, like China is the place to go for manufacturing all these products. It's not a high quality country. It's not made in Switzerland by any means, but they somewhat know what they're doing when it comes to manufacturing. And you might find when you go to other countries in Asia that they don't have quite the same know-how, they don't have the same standards, they don't have the same experience, maybe don't have the same equipment. You might find that the quality is not quite what you're used to sourcing from China. As funny as that sounds, saying it here.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I've been thinking that just with everything that's been going on over the past year or two, ideally, I would really like to not have to rely on China for product sourcing. I think I don't know, I mean, maybe it's tough, just like kind of what you're saying with having multiple factories. Like if we were gonna switch to sourcing from a different country, we'd have to switch everything, you know? And that would be, I mean, that'd be a huge move. It'd be a bitch. But I'm skeptical, man. I'm skeptical of like the overall sustainability of Chinese manufacturing over the long term. I guess we'll have to wait and see. I do think though, like the entire like effects of this, if this goes on for an extended period of time, if a lot of factories in China can't produce, even if it's just like from now and then they have it fixed when they say they will, if they have it fixed by March. If between now and March, factories like every factory in China can only produce at half capacity, that is going to have insane effects on the entire, global marketplace as a whole. I think everything's going to get more expensive. There's going to be more, quote unquote inflation. It's just like what I've learned from everything that happened with COVID is even just something happening for a short period of time can have ripple effects that last for months or years after that.
Yeah, absolutely. The good thing is we've got inventory. And yeah, maybe that means other people can't advertise as much as they want in Q4 or in Q1 of next year. Could be good for us. I think with I mean, you're obviously right that there's risks with China, but I think a lot of the time people go like smart people have smart thoughts that lead them astray. Don't source from China. It's not sustainable. It just can't work. It doesn't make sense. You can't rely on China. Okay. Don't run ads on Facebook because Facebook can fuck you over and close your account at any time. Facebook is in decline. Facebook CPMs are rising. Don't advertise on Facebook. Okay, you can have a million smart reasons for not doing those things, but the fact is doing them right now is going to make you a shit ton of money potentially. So a lot of smart reasoning that might get you an A if you wrote it on a college paper, I think can lead people astray and lead them to do dumb shit that is just not effective, even though it sounds good in theory.
That's an interesting idea. Interesting concept there. What was it saying? Smart people can have smart thoughts that make them do dumb things. Something like that.
Pretty much. Just leads them astray.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, do you think that at this point in time that we really do anything about this, or you just think we kind of keep an eye on it and see what happens?
I mean, if we do something about it, it's stocking up and making sure that we actually use 50% of the factory's capacity. Because right now we're not. So make sure that while we can, we are at 50% capacity so that if it gets worse or if our revenue dramatically increases in Q4, which is kind of to be expected, or at least to be hoped for, so that we're not scrambling then.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one thing that we could do. Or not the one thing we could do, but the one thing that I'm considering, the one thing we might do, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that can make sense. It's just tough too, because with a lot of these issues, especially with anything with like manufacturing and product sourcing, there are issues that can't be fixed instantly. There's so much time. And like, if we don't do what you just said in 3 months, say that we're out of inventory, everything is running great except for we don't have inventory, and if we had inventory, we could be making out like bandits. At that point, it's going to be too late. I mean, we'll be able to course correct from there, but it's going to take months for that to take effect. And I think I don't know. That's just one of like the interesting and kind of tough parts about ecom with the whole, supply chain. That's kind of how that works. And that's what we've seen with COVID and all the effects of everything. It's been like a lot of delayed, but long lasting effects that, I mean, COVID started almost 2 years ago, and we are still very much dealing with all the effects of that on the supply chain. And I think probably will be for, I mean, who knows how long, man.
Yeah, that's super interesting to us because every other part of our business is so flexible and can be adjusted on the fly. Like if we need to double our support staff, I can do that in a week. If we need to change our website, I can do that in 20 minutes. New sales page, a day. Like we can do all this stuff so quickly, but you just can't get around certain physical time constraints when it comes to ordering inventory. It just takes 6 weeks if you're going to produce, ship, get through customs in China, get through customs in the US, get through all the queues at airports and stuff. There's just physical, I don't know if physical is the right word. There's just constraints that you just can't get around.
I would say the physical is probably a pretty decent way to describe that, because everything else is more digital. That's what makes it a bit easier to adjust on the fly.
Yeah, pretty much. It's the real part of our business, the touchable. The word.
And
really to
I think
improve our
there's a better
vocabulary.
term for that.
There definitely is. 2022, we're going to come out with we're going to make it up to 8th grade vocabulary. We're going to graduate 7th grade, step up our smart sounding word game.
Nah, and I think we'll just stop doing the physical side and we'll just start selling NFTs or something.
Maybe.
But yeah, guys, that's the basic gist.
Tangible.
There you go.
There you go. Graduated early this year.
Like that. English isn't even I guess English is kind of your first language, but
oh, fuck off.
Yeah, that's the gist. There's something going on with the energy in China and in other parts of the world. I think one part of this that we didn't touch on a whole lot is, from what I've seen, like natural gas prices have gone up immensely, especially in Europe. I don't think the effects have been as bad in the US. Um, but there's just, just because of COVID and everything, there's just a lot of things happening in terms of like the entire global marketplace. And some of these things in terms of e-commerce can certainly have an effect on what we do. And I think it's, as someone in this business, I think it's somewhat important to be up to date on what's going on with these things. That's kind of why we wanted to talk about it. Again, not really exactly sure what's going to happen. Like, this could be gone by next week, or we could still be talking about this in 2 years. It's pretty hard to say right now, but we're going to keep an eye on it. If there's any further developments that we feel like are significant enough to talk about, we will certainly talk about it more here on the Ecom Dispensary, your go-to e-commerce news source, the most up-to-date information, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, keep an eye on that, guys. I think if you want to do some extra research on that, I would probably not say that that's a bad idea. There's a lot of information out there about this online right now. So do with that what you will. Maybe start getting a little prepared. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But I think that's the episode. You got anything else you want to add here, Scotty? Any words of wisdom before we sign off for this beautiful week?
I do not. I think that's it for this week. And we'll talk to you next time.
Oh, did you just do the outro? I like that. All right. Well, as you heard the man say, that's it for this week, folks. We'll talk to you guys next week.